What's good, y'all? It's your boy Sean P. the Blunt Guy. Hey! And we are back with another One Piece reaction. And today, Parvision is going to be telling us a little bit about the Celestial Dragons and their heritage. The title of this video is The True Heritage of the Celestial Dragons. Enemy number one might be our allies. Interesting title, right? Might be our allies. But before we get into that, make sure you guys hit that like button. Also, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications. Also, make sure you follow me on Twitch so you can catch me live and you can engage with me in real time. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and join the Discord and come be a part of my community. And that's also where you're going to be able to send me One Piece videos to react to through the Discord. I have a channel specifically for members to send me videos, and I can't promise I'll get to it right away, but I'll eventually get to it. You know, I usually do eventually get to it. Might have been some videos that I haven't got to, and it kind of became outdated after a while for waiting too long. But yeah, that's where you're going to submit videos to me. But yeah, so let's get into it. We are talking about Parvision, and he is talking about the Celestial Dragons and their heritage. And there's I guess a word in the title that kind of caught my eye. The fact that they are number one, or enemy number one, pretty much, but they could potentially be allies. How, right? Now, we could possibly take it back to the God Valley incident, right? Where we know that Rox Beck did something there, right? He was going there for some reason. We don't really know the full, like, why he was there, but we know he went there, and we also know that Goldie Roger and Monkey D. Garp was there, and they defended the Celestial Dragons and their slaves. So they defended them, at least how it was told, how the event was told by I think it was Sengoku. I'm not sure. It was one of the Marines that talked about it. I think it was Sengoku though. But correct me if I'm wrong. Whoever watched, correct me if I'm wrong. But so that's how we learned about this event, and we learned that Garp and Roger teamed up. A pirate and a marine teamed up to protect celestial dragons and their slaves. Now, why would Roger do that? Right? Why would Roger work with a marine in order to protect these celestial dragons? And we know how celestial dragons are, right? Why would Roger do that? Why would Garp do that? We know one thing we know about Garp is he doesn't. I think it was stated somewhere. Garp doesn't want to be admiral because he doesn't want to answer to celestial dragons. So, you know, at least that's part of the reason why he doesn't want to be an admiral. He doesn't like celestial dragons, obviously, right? There's some about him he don't like. So, why would two guys who you would think wouldn't really like celestial dragons protect them? Is there more to these celestial dragons that we, don't know that could potentially make them allies later in the series? To like Luffy? I don't know, but we're gonna have to hear Parvision's take on this because I don't really know what to say. I don't know how celestial dragons could eventually be allies to the protagonist in at least in the story. Maybe an event similar to God Valley. It could be a situation like that. Like maybe there was something that compelled Garp and Roger to take the lesser of two evils, right? Which would be being on the side of the celestial dragons, right? Like maybe there was something that that Rox was trying to accomplish, you know, that would make Garp and Roger team up and I guess go the lesser of two evils path and protect them. You know, is it some level of importance that the celestial dragons hold? Maybe a specific celestial dragon that was at God Valley. Maybe it wasn't necessarily them protecting all the celestial dragons. Maybe it was a specific celestial dragon. You know what I mean? Who could that celestial dragon be? Charlos, whatever his name is. I don't know, but I don't want to waste any more time. Let's get into the video. I'm curious what Parvision has to say. So let's go.
Insecurity is an ugly thing. It makes you hate people that you don't even know.
Make sure you guys go show Parvision some love. The link will be in the description box.
I think this fits the celestial dragons so well because one, have you seen them? But also they isolate themselves within their literal bubble. If there was a word I could associate the celestial dragons with, it would be insecure. So many of their ideals seem like flat out projections of their own insecurities. I mean, look at the real world. Sometimes our thoughts are backed by so much insecurity that they create lies that we end up believing. I think the celestial dragons put themselves on a pedestal to hide from their various dark pasts that they refuse to face and are embarrassed of. They put others down because they are so afraid to be on the other end of the whip. So today we're going to talk about how by analyzing their insecurities, we might get a better understanding of their origins. So if you're new to my channel, the way I view
I don't know. Like, I don't know if I agree with that specific statement because I don't know if every celestial dragon was or is aware of, you know, a lot of the stuff that their ancestors might have done. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think the celestial dragons are just like super out of touch. Like, I don't know if I would call them insecure. You know, I think they're out of touch, you know, because they're raised by parents who just tell them that they're just the best things in the world. And like, I don't know if I'd call it insecurities. You know, I don't know if I don't know if I believe that they're hiding some level of insecurity. I think that they're just unaware. You know what I'm saying? Like they just were told that they were the greatest thing by the people who raised them, like their parents, and they're just out of touch. You know, so they truly probably believe that other people are beneath them. You know what I'm saying?
the world is by making connections. So let me connect you to my vision, the Parvision. Alright, let's start with the celestial dragons, or rather, their more accurate name, which would be the heavenly dragon folk. That's going to be an important part of this theory. In my major Amatsuki Last Saga theory, I tied how the same kanji for heaven is used for both the celestial dragons and the Amatsuki clan. But I think another important synthesis from that video was the continued trend of what seemed to be civil wars at the time of the Void Century. For example, there was the 1,000-year war between the Long Arm versus Long Leg tribe, and in that video I hypothesized that there might have been a similar situation between the Kozuki and the Amatsuki. And if you haven't,
I low-key would wonder how it would be for if Smoothie and Apu met each other. You know, like, you know, but then again, Smoothie probably never really dealt with that whole long arm, long leg tribe because she was raised by Big Mom, so she wasn't around that, you know what I'm saying? So to her, it might not really matter much, you know, because she wasn't raised in that beef or whatever you want to call it. She wasn't raised around those tensions between the two different races. Apu, on the other hand, he might have been raised around all that, the tension, the fighting and all that. So he might have feel some type of way about Smoothie, but Smoothie may not, you know what I mean?
If you haven't seen that video yet, I would recommend it because it does help the logic line being established here, but even without that, there's a few legs for this theory to stand on. So let's start off with a thought that kind of sparked this thinking. What do the celestial dragons seem to detest the most? It's fishmen. From what we have come to understand, they are placed beneath humans as commoners and are instantly thought of as auction items or trash. But hold on, let me walk us through a very interesting detail. See, when Oda named the races, they're pretty on the nose in what they mean. I mean, Kinokobito translates to mushroom people, long arms have long arms, three-eyed tribe has 3 eyes, giants are giants, and fishmen are men of fish. So then, what about the heavenly dragon folk? Isn't that technically their race or tribe name? So the heavenly part is clearly an extra adjective. I mean, is it? But okay, let's just stick with the dragon folk for right now. Let's think about dragon folk real quick. I mean, let's just say Oda wasn't lying and they are actually descendants of dragons. But then that is an obvious problem. Well, not necessarily a problem, but you understand why that's weird, right? Here, let me give you a hint. What did we learn in Wano? Kaido had the dragon fruit, right? But remind me what class Kaido's fruit was? It was the fish fruit, right? Meaning that in the One Piece verse, dragons can be classified as fish? So wouldn't that kind of mean that the celestial dragons or heavenly dragon...
It kind of remind me of in Pokemon, right? You got the Gyarados, who's a dragon, but he evolves from a fish. You know what I'm saying? So, like, maybe the Japanese culture associate dragons with fish at times, you know what I'm saying? Because again, Kaido's devil fruit being of a fish fruit, and then you got back in Pokemon, you got Gyarados, who evolves from an actual fish, a Magikarp. So there has to be some relevancies with fish and dragons.
Folk are actually descendants of Fishman Island, it would explain the proximity of the two locations as well. But let's take a second, because that would be really insane, right?
I kind of see where he's going, right? Like because Kaido's devil fruit is the fish fruit, right? So in One Piece, the world of One Piece, dragons are associated with fish, kind of like I was just talking about in Japanese culture, right? So, that being the case, it could mean that there is a connection with the celestial dragons and the fishmen. You know what I mean? Because maybe if they're related to actual dragons, and One Piece dragons are related to fish as well, maybe there's just that connection. I think I'm starting to see where he's going with this.
Right? Yes, you heard me right. The Celestials possibly having Fishman blood is what I just said. And then I was like, wait, is that even possible? I mean, clearly they are inbred of some sort, but if the blood was diluted enough, we see even in one generation with Kokoro and Chimney has Fishman blood, but has no Fishman manifestations, other than that she can swim really well, which might be important a little bit later in other videos. So it's very possible that there could be other examples of this outside of this theory. Why would Oda introduce the possibility of completely normal looking humans with Fishman blood if we weren't going to see it again in either an important character or possibly an important group of characters? I mean, I had a softer theory that the Kozuki was possibly part Fishman as well, but I'll reel it back in for right now. Just ignore that last sentence. But okay, it's established that yeah, with even one generation of lineage separation, you could appear to be a full human but still have Fishman blood. So it's not impossible that the celestial dragons could be fishmen, but maybe not all the celestials have to be of the same heritage. But this does kind of allow for there to be a way that more Fishman blood is spread throughout the world than we realize. I mean, if we were to step into the dark for a second, the fishmen were heavily enslaved by the nasty celestials, right? I mean, I don't need to read you what happens historically in that situation for you to understand. But stepping out of that for now, all of this is really weird because we've been in the water and we've never seen a dragon before. But what's even weirder is despite that, somehow at the very bottom of the ocean is Fishman Island. And what is the kingdom called? It's Ryugu Kingdom. What's that palace called? Ryugu Palace. And what does Ryugu mean? It means Imperial Dragon. So it's Imperial Dragon.
All right, so now that we, like, when you think about it, right? Fishman Island is the Fishman Island arc, especially the flashback. We see celestial dragons, right? Like that was probably one of the first arcs we really get like some celestial dragon encounters, like some more about the celestial dragon. I mean, we get it a little bit in Sabaody with the whole auction house and everything, but we also get some celestial dragon stuff in Fishman Island. And then when you also think about it, where is Fishman Island located? The exact opposite, right under Mary Joa, right? Right under Mary Joa. We got the red line. We got Mary Joa on the top of the red line, and then we got Fishman Island on the bottom of the red line. So, like, it's just funny how closely connected they are in some of these ways. Like we seen the celestial dragons in Fishman Island, like in the flashback, we seen the celestial dragon. We also know that it's proximity pretty much right there, like one's over the other, one's under the other, right? So proximity, they're connected proximity wise. Storyline wise, there was some connection when we got the celestial dragons going to Fishman Island. I'm just saying, right? They got a lot. They're heavily associated with each other in a few ways. So what he's saying isn't necessarily like there's some connections, and now he's breaking it down with the whole Ryugu kingdom, meaning a giant imperial dragon, right? Ryugu, and also the connection with, you know, fish and dragons. When you look at the actual devil fruit of like Kaido's devil fruit, which is a dragon devil fruit, but the name of it is the fish fruit model dragon. So there's connection with fishes and dragons. You know, a lot of connection with that. You know what I'm saying? Then when you just look at the celestial dragons and the fishmen, there's some connection with them as well. So he might actually be onto something.
With Imperial Dragon Palace with, oh yeah, an Imperial Dragon statue as a cherry on top. So that means we have Imperial Dragons and Celestial Dragons separated by water and the sky and the red line. Maybe by climbing the red line is how Imperial Dragons become Celestial Dragons. Another thought that ran through my head was, you remember the Emperor Cloud that had the white sea? I was thinking, couldn't the clouds be an oasis for fishmen? If they could have an aquatic fish native to the clouds, why not fishmen? What if the fishmen from the clouds were called dragons instead of fish, or heavenly dragon folk? But so anyways, for the moment, dragon folk, okay? Do we know of any dragons in the series? Well, there was the one that Ryuma slayed, but I doubt that was the Celestial Dragon's ancestor, right? It could be, maybe. Outside of the ones Vegapunk made, we do have Kaido, I guess. I think Kaido's dragon fruit is the most dragon-like thing we'll ever get. It's a mythical dragon.
We did have some dragons. I think it was a filler arc though. It was a filler arc. I think they were called like millennial dragons. I don't remember, but I remember like early in the series, this was like I think this might have been East Blue Saga. It might have either been East Blue Saga or it might have been early Grand Line, where there were some dragons. There were like some millennial dragons, but it was a filler arc, so you know they weren't necessarily canon dragons.
And if Luffy's the sun god Nika, then maybe Kaido's dragon was a god to the Celestial Dragons. Maybe that's the real reason why Kaido's fruit was sought after by Vegapunk and the Celestials. It wasn't for the dragon part necessarily, but rather the lineage factor of the original dragon. And in volume 99's SBS, Oda states that mythical Zoan types exist because they were extracted from already existing organisms. But how would this epic dragon create these atrocities in potato sacks? Which, speaking of potato sacks, maybe this is another huge clue as to why they wear those things in the first place. It's interesting, right? Because the Gorosei never seemed to wear it, and given how someone like Doflamingo was, it's not like the air was actually different from our understanding.
do the celestial dragons correct? Because I'm having a brain fart right now, y'all. But do the celestial dragons wear those bubbles outside of Mary Joa, or do they just wear those bubbles when they're on like around like common people, like when they're in Sabaody or Fishman Island, like? Because I'm pretty sure we seen some celestial dragons in Revelry. Did they have those bubbles on? You know, because I remember the one guy who went to Fishman Island before, and I think he saved Shirahoshi from like Charlos or whatever during Revelry. I don't think he had a bubble helmet on during Revelry, but I think Charlos might have. I'm not too sure. I don't really remember, but because maybe it's something about the air. Maybe they feel as though they don't want to breathe the same air as common people.
But what if the tradition of those suits were created to prevent people from seeing their bodies? Maybe it was also a self-defense from getting wet. All of this does kind of remind me of that Vanderdecken situation, where as a fishman, he had to have an air bubble around him while underwater. Maybe the Celestial Dragon suits were just an upgraded version of that. Another small clue is the family lineage thing. We all know that the Celestial Dragons are ugly.
Yeah, Vanderdecken still is a devil fruit user, so, you know, he kind of had to have that bubble on. Like we seen from Jack, even though he's a fishman, you know, when he hit that water, he couldn't do anything. He couldn't necessarily die because he wasn't going to be able to drown because he got gills, right? But so I would assume it'll be the same for Vanderdecken. Like he would just probably be unable to move, but he would still be able to breathe, which would be kind of it would suck though. That would be like a suck. That would be like a horrible way to pretty much, because you'll be trapped in the water. Like you could, like I guess you would eventually die from like starvation, but you would just be stuck in the water, unable to move. But you can't die because you can't really drown right away. So you'll just slowly die like from hunger or until somebody comes save you.
But something else that's striking is that, you know how in Fishman and mink lineage, you could be one animal, but your parents could be a completely different animal. So, for example, if I was a rabbit mink, because you know reasons, my parents could be a bear mink and a kangaroo mink. And that's the same thing with Fishman as well. You end up getting the features of someone of your family lineage, but not necessarily your immediate family members. When we look at the small examples of the ugly celestial dragons, they also have very little familial correlation. I mean, Doflamingo and Rosinante look...
Hey, there was a I remember there being a theory about what's his name? What was the fishman you just showed, not Bellamy. The fishman that's part of him, right? Him. I forget his name. I think there was a theory out there that he was Kokoru's son. And what's her name? What's Kokoru's grandson? Like Chimney, I think that's her name. Chimney. He was her father. I think it was him. Like he was her father, and he was Kokoru's son. I remember there being a theory about that, like who Kokoru's son was, and I think he was one of the suspects of said theory. Parvision says, yeah, video Orca's Devil Fruit. I was more mean like the similar functions could be hinting at more use of it. Oh, okay. Yeah, I got what you mean. I get what you mean. When you're talking about Vanderdecken wearing that bubble. Yeah, I mean, it could be that as well. Dillinger is his name. Yeah, I remember there being a theory about Dillinger being Kokoru's son or Chimney's father. Or was it Dillinger? I think it was Dillinger.
Familial correlation. I mean, Doflamingo and Rosinante look nothing like their parents. But Roswald, Charlos, and Shalria, they aren't even close, but they're all family. Going back to the Doflamingo family, we have such a wide difference. I mean, not all families in One Piece look exactly like a nuclear lineage, but a lot of times we have seen.
Looking at you, Monkey D. Dragon. It's funny because Luffy does have a lot of similarities to Garp, but when you look at Dragon, it's like, whose son is he and whose dad is he? Like, I don't know. I don't get it because it's like they don't really look alike. Dragon don't look like he got any resemblance to his family.
Familial resemblance like Roger and Ace, Garp and Luffy, Momo and Odin. That has been a notable thing as well. So I just wanted you to think about that when it comes to the Celestial Dragons. But as you all know, I have a few videos really dissecting random outlying details within Fishman Island arc, which led me to the Vanderdecken mushroom theory, or Godfather Shanks' magical warpole theory, or my favorite, Thug Life Otahime, which we'll get into.
Yeah, Parvision, you was the one to come up with that Vanderdecken theory, like the one where he was the first person to find Laugh Tale. I still like that theory. I think I was talking about that in a previous reaction video where I was talking about I forgot why I brought him up, but I think it was during the Dak Saki reaction video where it was about the One Piece being in, or Laugh Tale being in under Long Land Island, where it's like a well, I guess. And I was thinking, because it just made me think back to that whole Vanderdecken theory, where the original Vanderdecken might have went underwater to find the One Piece. Like, that's why, like, I'm really of the belief that the One Piece is somewhere underwater. Like, I'm really, like, Laugh Tale is somewhere underwater, be it in the Slavi, like that waterfall, or Long Land, like under there inside of a well or something. Like, and I think Vanderdecken is a very interesting character that needs to be explored a little more. You know, like what treasure was he looking for that was underwater? It was a grand treasure. Man, yeah. I need more Vanderdecken. Parvision says, oh, the theory I heard is that Sasaku and Toby Roppo is yeah, it was Sasaki. Never mind. It wasn't Dillinger. It was Sasaki. You know, cause Dillinger might be a little too young. So Sasaki, yeah, it was Sasaki. Sasaki is Kokoro's son and Chimney's father. Yeah, Sasaki. I don't know why I was thinking Dillinger. Even though Dillinger and Sasaki, could they be related? You know, could they be related?
Into a second, but something else that really interested me was Celestial Dragon Don Quixote Mosgard. If you remember the story, he chartered his own ship to Fishman Island, and on the way to Fishman Island, his ship was attacked by sea monsters, and everyone on his ship was wiped out and killed besides him. He managed to survive in the depths of the ocean alone, and on his shipwrecked ship. While sure, celestial dragons could be within some kind of safe chamber on the ship, this was an interesting thing that despite pirates not being able to survive such an event, he did. I wonder if that was a subtle hint at some kind of affinity for water at the minimum. I thought celestial dragons were fodder, but they seem to be pretty durable like fishmen. And remember how I mentioned Chimney, despite not being full or even physically apparent fishman, she is still a notably great swimmer? I was thinking about that situation in Fishman Island with the celestial dragon. It's kind of interesting that Mosgard was the only survivor amongst all of his guards. The ship was attacked by sea kings outside of the bubble, so how did Mosgard actually survive? Is it possible that his dormant fishman DNA aided him in his survival? But yeah, let's back it up real quick. Fishman Island.
That's interesting. I mean, he was the only one to survive, and you know, maybe he could have been unconscious, but like if he was able to spawn his gills, you know what I'm saying? Maybe it could have carried him, kept him alive that time. I don't know. Good point though. Definitely good point.
Island is called the Ryugu Kingdom, despite having no history of dragons or present dragons. But even more than that, if dragons are considered fish, even though it's a mythical class, that does imply that there would be fishman dragons, or dragon fishmen, as there are all types of fish as fishmen and mermaids, but there are no dragon fishmen. And that's kind of interesting because another notable ability is that Jinbei, for example, is a whale shark fishman.
You know, something you talk about dragon fishmen, right? Could those possibly be related to sea kings? You know, because when you look at sea kings, they do look. I mean, there's some sea kings that do look a bit dragonish, right? So, like the sea king back in the Go, like outside of Fuchsia Village, back in the Goa Kingdom, where Luffy's from, right? That Sea King looked a lot like a dragon, even though it kind of looked like I guess you could say it looked like an eel or a moray, but still, it still looks similar to a dragon though, right? Look similar to Kaido. It has the snake-like body and just the dragon looking face a bit. So I'm saying, could Sea Kings be related to these dragon fishmen? Possibly, maybe. I don't know. I'm just saying.
And can speak to whale sharks, and King Neptune can speak to whales, and we know Poseidon can speak to, sea kings. But that would also mean that if there were dragons and dragon fishmen, they could speak to dragons. That's a very important detail, right? Being able to speak to dragons? Doesn't that sound like Game of Thrones or some One Piece filler that you might have skipped if you were a manga reader or you skipped the fillers? Hint, hint, at a future video. But here we go again. Another
I see what you did there.
very interesting situation with an entire kingdom and a missing clan or race. In Wano's case, it was the Amatsuki clan that apparently existed in the Void Century, but are rare to non-existent in the present Wano situation. Similarly, it's literally the Imperial Dragon Kingdom, and there are literally 0 dragons present of fish or man type. So maybe the heavenly dragon folk were actually dragon folk, and so Ryugu Kingdom was originally theirs, and when the world government formed, they left their kingdom. I know it sounds crazy, but even when you look at Fishman Island, their island model kind of just resembles that of a celestial dragon. Like, why is the Imperial Dragon Palace literally in the heavens compared to the kingdom? Way above to give them the sense of superiority. It's kind of ironic that Otahime wanted to be more connected with her kingdom, yet literally lived in an out-of-reach place, one that you can't help feel disconnected to. I know if I was a kid playing in my neighborhood and I had a floating castle above my house.
It's kind of odd that dragon on top of the Fishman Castle looks a lot like the same dragon that we see at Onigashima, like Kaido's dragon, right? You know, just had to throw that out there too. Parvision said, I got another idea for Sea Kings. Oh, I'm interested to hear that. I know you probably already got it for like a video, so I'll save it. You know, I'll wait to see it. You know what I'm saying?
I 100% would just assume those people would think they're better than me, you know? So then if the Imperial Dragon folk ascended to the Holy Land, which would just be straight up, I could easily see them starting to call themselves the Heavenly Dragon folk. Which also, now that I kind of think about it, wouldn't Fishmen be fairly safe to counter the Lunarians which were originally there? Maybe Fisher Tiger parallels the original raid of the Holy Land. Fisher Tiger solo raided Merijois to free the Holy Land. Maybe the Imperial Dragon folk raided the Lunarians and made it the Celestial Dragon's land. But real quick, staying on the Fishman lineage topic just a little longer, it can be—
Bro, I like Fisher Tiger and his flashback, man. I hope we get more Fisher Tiger in the story, like some type of relevance, possibly. Like somebody bring him up, maybe give like a tape of Fisher Tiger that we haven't seen of him yet. You know, it'd be nice, you know.
It make a lot of sense that they had Fishman lineage as a possible interpretation of their behavior, is that they themselves have Fishman blood that they are trying to mask with this superiority illusion that they're trying to maintain. And to make sure that they hide it appropriately, that's why they have suits that they wear. Because as we learned from Kokoro, if they get wet, they could possibly manifest their Fishman lineage randomly. But that's specifically mermaids, which brings me to another interesting point. See, what we learned of is that hatred is a cycle. The hatred you unleash on another will eventually cycle back to you unless suppressed with genocidal techniques. That is the truth of the world, and even the
Kamarasaki, look, Hiyori, Hiyori like a little Hitler right there. Freaking Hiyori talking about the Korazumi is meant to burn. That's some Hitler stuff right there. That's some Hitlerish Nazi stuff right there going on in Wano. We were supposed to save Wano, not turn him into the next Germany, the next Third Reich.
fear that our world runs from. That being said, you know what I also noticed? Fishman lineage has an innate division with a very interesting detail. Den, Tom's little brother in chapter 616, proclaimed that fishmen do not discriminate like humans do. But what if they do, or they did? A huge detail was that essentially giving birth to a child as a fishman or merman is RNG, or random number generated essentially. If any of my ancestors were mermaids, then there is a possibility that even with both parents being fishmen, their child could be a mermaid or merman. That being said, we had a full Punnett square of an example in the royal family. Did you notice that the entire royal family was mermaids? The king, the queen, and all 4 children. Is that a coincidence? I mean, if it's simply that Otahime being the royal here.
So that seems like mermaids might be more of royal like lineage, you know, maybe becoming a mermaid, or even if you have like a affinity of creating mermaids, maybe it's more of a royal trait.
Has a heavily weighted lineage of mermaids that would heavily sway the results. But for every kid to be a mermaid or merman is kind of suspect to me. It sounds like the exact kind of situation that would have came out of discrimination towards fishmen specifically, either pro-fishmen or against fishmen. Like there was some kind of separation between mermaids and fishmen that existed during the establishment of the current royal family that led to a mermaid preferred lineage as opposed to a fishman one. I wonder why. Another interesting detail was the ability to speak to fish is markedly notable in mermaids, not fishmen. That gives them a heavy power discrepancy, almost as if fishmen were hybrids of mermaids and humans, and that's how fishman lineage first came to be. Who knows what kind of history these poneglyphs have in store for us?
Maybe it has something to do with like mermaids being more fish-like, possibly, and fishmen being a little more human-like. I guess by like the bottom, maybe. You know what I'm saying? Like the fact, you know, maybe there's some level of advantages mermaids have. Like I would think a mermaid would be able to swim faster than a normal fishman. You know, just because they have like a fish, an aquatic type tail, where fishmen have more like human-like bottoms. Like overall, when you look at fishmen, their skin look more fish-like, and sometimes they have like teeth and all. You know, they have like some qualities as a fish, but structurally, fishmen look more human. You know, when you just look at like their body, right? Their body, their arms, their legs, all that. You know, now they have certain traits of fishmen as well. But mermaids, on the other hand, mermaids have a very fish-like bottom. You know, their top is more human though, but they have, you know, they're literally like half fish, half man or woman. You know what I'm saying? Where fishmen, they're just like, they have certain traits of fish, but their whole body looks more humanoid. Like they're like humanoids with fish-like traits. So maybe mermaids look more comparable to fish, I guess. So they're kind of boosted up. potentially. You know, I don't know. Just spitballing here.
Another thing that is notable was that the ones pushing through the adversity were typically the fishmen. I wonder if that's the original tale being told here, that the heavenly dragon folk or dragon folk were tired of being discriminated against, similar to all the other races at the Civil War during the Void Century. See, and what do I mean by that? See, going back to the innate power in merfolk, isn't that kind of unfair? I mean, a literal ancient weapon lies in that lineage, which fits the idea that dragon fish folk were the ones on the world government side. Similar to how the Kozuki had Pluton and the Amatsuki, the Heaven Moon clan, joined the Heavenly Dragon folks. Which, if you don't know what I'm talking about, go watch my Amatsuki catfish video. Which, now that I think about it, that clickbait was really foreshadowing this, wasn't it? You won't get that joke in full context just yet, but I promise there's more to this theory that I'll go into in at least 2 future videos. And maybe one of them might not even be on my channel. But while thinking about all of this, there's 2 things that I realized. I was thinking that maybe Shirahoshi is Poseidon simply because she is the exact same species of fish that the original Poseidon was, which might indicate something special about that fish or the Sea Kings. And that's also hints for a future video. The other thing that I was thinking, well, if the celestial dragons were actually dragon fishmen, then maybe that explains Imu's silhouette. This is the most curious shaped body we have ever seen in the entire story. A literal shot in the dark is that, well, if we look at Oda's concept art for...
And you know something about Eames' body? It kind of reminded me a bit of, if you ever watched the, or if you ever read the, I've said this before, if you ever read Anel's cover story, right? There were these space pirates, and they seemed like very tall with lanky bodies. Like, if I'm trying to, I remember seeing one of them, and he looked tall. He looked like a dog a little bit, right? Like, 'cause I think they did show his face. He looked like a dog, but he had like this very slender, lanky build that just kind of remind me of Eam. And sometimes I like to think that Eam could potentially been like, I don't want to say a space pirate per se, but an alien, you know, because those space pirates are obvious. I'm assuming they're aliens, right? I'm assuming they're aliens, you know, but they're space pirates instead of pirates like on Earth pirates, I guess. So if they're space pirates, it made me think there's other races outside of the One Piece Earth, I guess. And so there's aliens. So I always think that maybe Eam could potentially be an alien. You know, that's always been one of my speculations. But let's continue.
Kaido's hybrid dragon form that I think most people liked over what we actually got, it kind of would really fit the silhouette. It looks like what dragon folk would actually kind of look like, and maybe that's actually why Oda chose not to go with this dope looking form. So maybe the endgame villain is another fishman. You know how so many people think Imu has the Umi Umi no Mi? Maybe that isn't necessary, because as a dragon fishman, maybe their ability to control water is the most intense we have ever seen. That could connect back to my Nolan video, for example, with a knock.
I like that idea. Like dragon fishermen being able to control like water. Like we know that Jinbei can, you know, he can manipulate water to some degree. So just imagine Jinbei on steroids, or like a Super Saiyan Jinbei when it comes to water control or water manipulation. I'm just saying, that'd be hella scary right there. That'd be scary.
Upstream. I mean, that also goes back to my original idea. I forget which video it was, where I was thinking Vars was Imu and that Vars looked kind of like Jinbei, and I think that has resurfaced now as being what Imu looks like, a dragon fishman. Which, now that I think about it, also connects to my Rock's original race theory video too. There's so many connections. I know this theory sounds crazy, but it's actually so much deeper than you might think. I think we are going to find out more and more about the origins of humans and living creatures on the One Piece planet, and how everything was sourced originally from nature. A battle of elements, creating a major storm that will end up being the last saga that will determine whether people can live in harmony together. I think the overall sentiment echoed from the beginning that makes this idea make a lot of sense to me is the intense discrimination towards fishmen, when the irony would be the discrimination would be enforced to create a manufactured separation when there should be no separation at all. If you enjoyed this theory, make sure to buckle.
Or like maybe the discrimination against fishmen is a way for the Celestials, kind of like, and I'm agreeing with you as well, but I'm just kind of adding on. Maybe it's also to hide that secret of them being fishmen. Because if they show like they don't like fishmen and they hate fishmen, it would be hard to believe that like they are fishmen as well. So I mean, yeah, that has something to do with like insecurities. But like if they was like super hateful, nobody would ever suspect them to be fishmen or related to fishmen. You know what I'm saying? So yeah,
in for more. And if you're new to my channel, definitely check out the rest of my videos because all of my theories connect one way or another. It's a lot of fun to write the scripts like I'm going from island to island with my theories, where they are so different but all connected. If you end up video hopping on my channel, make sure to leave comments so I can see the log of your journey. And before you go, make sure to leave a like, share the theory, and subscribe. And
yeah, man, shout out to Parvision. Y'all go support Parvision. The link to this video will be in the description box. So y'all make sure y'all go give him a like. I'm going to give him a like right now. And go subscribe to him. He makes great content. He makes great videos. But yeah, man, that's an interesting take. I never actually thought about celestial dragons being fishmen related, you know. And Parvision did a great job making some connections. You know, we know that Fishman Island is literally like right under Mary Joa. Like it's literally connected. And like Mary Joa and Fishman Island are like they're connected. It's almost like they're polar opposites, where you got Mary Joa on the top of the Grand Line, you know, and it has the Eve tree, the Eve tree, and then Fishman Island at the bottom, you know. So it kind of mirrors, right? It's like you got the celestial dragons, and then you got the celestial dragon rejects to a degree, you know. If that just kind of playing along with the video we watched, they're like the fishmen that prevailed and were accepted among people, and then you got the fishmen who are looked at as outcasts and rejects among society, living at the bottom, getting the roots of the sun tree or the Eve tree, right? So the sun tree Eve, I think that's what I wanted to say, right? So it's some connection, right? And then we also, one of the only arcs we really get to see a good bit of like a celestial dragon interaction was the Fishman Island arc of all arcs. You know, I mean, before that we had the Sabaody. That's where we kind of introduced the celestial dragons. But Fishman Island was when, you know, we learned about, I think it was Marigold or whatever, and he went to Fishman Island. And this was when the fisherman was talking about going to the Earth's surface and becoming part of the rest of society, you know. So yeah, you know, there's some connection there. I definitely do agree. And, you know, especially how the fishermen, they're associated with dragons. We never see no dragon in Fishman Island or anything. The dragons in One Piece are associated with fish, right? We know that Kaido's devil fruit is the fish fruit. Was the Uo Uo no Mi or something like that. Model dragon, which is the fish devil fruit. Model dragon, you know. So there are heavy connections with fish and dragons, at least in the world of One Piece. So could that mean that celestial dragons are connected with fishmen as well? I mean, it was a persuasive argument, I will say that. But yeah, that's pretty much the video right there. Make sure you guys hit that like button. Also, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications. Comment down below. What are your thoughts of the video we just reacted to? What are your thoughts on some of my thoughts, I guess, Let me know down in the comments. Also, make sure you follow me on Twitch so you can catch me live and you can engage with me in real time. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And make sure you become a part of the community and join the Discord. That is the best place to send me content to react to. I have a submission channel for you guys to send me stuff that you want me to react to, One Piece related. If you send me anything else that's not One Piece related, I might react to it in like a chill stream or something. Might be like a reaction thing. But yeah, anyway, y'all, it's your boy Sean P, the Blunt God, and I'm out of here. Peace.